want to throw this stat out there, though. And I do think this is a big part of the problem at Tottenham. Antonio Conte has now led Spurs to more league defeats than AVB did in 3 fewer games. Like Andre Villas-Boas, who was awful for Tottenham, lost less games in more matches than Antonio Conte. There is certainly a disconnect between what Antonio Conte wants and what your team performs on the pitch. And I know I've had a lot of pelters this year from Spurs fans, but the reason I predicted you to miss out on top 4 is because you just don't perform well enough, regularly enough. It's legitimately like every week there's another problem, there's another issue. Like, Nix, what do you think it is with Spurs? Is it the lack of quality of players? Is it the manager and his system, the board, a combination of all three? Because that wasn't just bad, that was rank.
I want to know from Patrick if it's sustainable. That's a word that he's been throwing out there a lot, challenging people. And then you beat City, you get smacked by Leicester, and you're further behind Man United now than you were. And you're like, I want to know if Patrick understands the definition of sustainable anyway, and what he still thinks about Spurs. I'll give you a moment to think about that before you answer. But cool. I don't really want to blame Conte. I don't want to, because he's a great manager. What he's done in his career, he knows how to win. And if he's come to Spurs like other great managers have come, and also failed to, I wouldn't say get the best out of the team, but more get to the heights that the fans want the club to get. I won't say even the club, because maybe the club are very content with just challenging for top 4, but where the fans want to. I have to question the club as a whole rather than even just the manager. But there does come a point where the manager has to take responsibility. There does come a point, because if you give him all the praise like we did last year, and he clawed back Arsenal to get top 4, yes, Man United have been doing well. Newcastle have been doing well. But he came in after Ten Hag. He came in around the same period, maybe even a bit before. Sorry, before Ten Hag. He came in maybe just before or around the same period as Eddie Howe. So the time that he's had with this squad has been either equal to or longer than the rivals for top 4. Yet Newcastle seem to be hitting a bit of a brick wall, and Spurs are unable to capitalize. Man United are getting better and better. Conte, who's supposed to be a world-class manager, how can he not get the best out of the players that's there? And I say the best out of the players that's there because we can talk about not being backed in the market, transfer window, this, etc. But at the start of the season, many people, including myself, looked at this team and said, this is good enough for top 4. And that was taking into account Liverpool and Liverpool being in the top 4. So the fact that Liverpool aren't in the top 4, some people may have had Chelsea in there as well. How can Spurs not capitalize on that and have allowed Newcastle and Manchester United, who most people don't have in the top 4, to go past them despite having a world-class manager for longer periods? So he has to take some blame in that period. And I think at the end of the season, maybe he has to look at himself and say, yeah, you know what, I can't do much more here. Whether that's he blames it on himself, or he blames it on the board or the players, that's up to him. But it doesn't seem to be working. I have Spurs still to get top 4, mainly because I think Newcastle are going to continue to fall away as they have in the last 5 or so games. But it ain't based on Spurs performances, I tell you that, because the inconsistency is real.
All I would say about the Conte one, just to defend him briefly, is that his success at Chelsea and his success at Inter Milan was founded on defensive solidity first and foremost, and then you've got that defensive solidity, and then you can crack on in the offensive phase of the game. I know Conte is associated with being a very defensive manager, but Inter Milan, I think, is the Inter Milan side which won the title, scored the most goals. So there is clearly an offensive tactic in Conte. And if you think of that, the Chelsea team, which we won the title with in his first season, you had like an informed David Luiz, Azpilicueta, and Cahill when he was good. And then at Inter Milan, you had, who was it? Skriniar, De Vrij, and Bastoni. And who's he got at Spurs? Romero, yes, good. But he's working with Eric Dyer, it's in the name, he's Dyer. He's got Davis, who's a full-back playing at centre-half. He's got Longley on loan, who is, Barcelona said he was not good enough for us, so ship him off to Spurs. And Tanganga is another option. I don't really know what his best position is. So just to defend Conte a little bit, he does have to take some blame, 100%. But all I would say about it is that his best teams are founded on defensive solidity, and the personnel at Spurs doesn't really scream that. But maybe that's Conte's fault, because maybe he should have gone out and tried to sign a
that's it, Nobbins. They spent 60 million on Richarlison, and don't get just, I like Richarlison, but they spent 60 million on Richarlison, and he's backed Son to the hill this season, despite Son doing nothing. When, if you're going to do that, if you're going to say, well, Son, you're going to play regardless, then you might as well spend that 60 million on another centre back, because you've literally spent 60 million to put on the bench, because he's not giving nobody else an opportunity when somebody else should be getting an opportunity. Son should not be starting games. He came off the bench against Leicester back in, I don't know, October, November, around that period, and got a hat-trick, and I think he scored 1 or 2 in the Champions League after. But maybe him being on the bench is what he needed. To bring him back in the starting lineup, it kind of just covers over or papers over the cracks of, oh, you had a bad season, I'm going to basically quote unquote punish you, or you need a rest, or you need to fight your way back in the team. He had one substitute appearance, and that was enough to get him back in the team. That allows him to continue to underperform. Now, I'm not even saying that he's down in tools or he's fallen off, but sometimes players need to kick up the arse, and one match of a kick up the arse is obviously not enough. He needs to be benched. He needs to be benched, and needs to be benched for a long period of time until the player that's replaced him is giving you less than he's currently giving you.
I mean, he's tried with Son, because Son this year has been so bad, so bad. Everything that he was so good at last year is just completely fat. The man can't even dribble anymore. He can't even dribble anymore. Like there's nothing of the player that won a Golden Boot last year, and Conte's clearly tried to play him through this bad form. So just keep going with the idea that eventually it'll click, and then we'll get Son. But it just isn't. And obviously, as well in the game, Bentancur went down, and now he's out for the rest of the season. You can't afford to keep playing this many out of form players. You're going to have to start, Conte, going for who is in form now, because that's how you win games. And Tottenham can't afford to try and play players into form because they can be better. You have to play the players right now who are in form to get you the point, to get you over the line, because your squad isn't deep enough.
Okay,
that's the plain simple fact.
Let me just jump on this. Is it fully Antonio Conte's fault? No. Did he know what he was getting into when he took this job? I don't believe he did. When it comes down to it, originally when he took this job, let's be honest, we all said this was going to end in failure, because we know that Tottenham are not a club that are going to match his ambition. And at Chelsea and Juventus, they didn't match his ambition. And at Inter, they sold off his best players. That's one. Number two, this squad was massively overhyped because they walked into that top 4 last season thinking they were going to improve and push on. All they've done is go backwards, because one, Antonio Conte still cannot galvanize this team and get the best out of them. Kane, Son, and Kulusevski, who've been their main catalyst of winning games last season, you see Son dropping off. You see Kane still keeping up his form, and Kulusevski, as of late, is just getting back from injury. So we haven't seen the best of him either. So that has been poor. Their midfield too had injuries. They've been extremely unlucky with the midfield and not getting Basuma sorted out. And the defense, everyone knew Tottenham needed to sign another center half going into the season. They didn't do that. They suffer massively from it right now. And this Tottenham team, they are where they are because of their own negligence. Antonio Conte, in the short term, he's a win now manager with a squad that's not a win now team. And this squad need a manager that's going to see them through the next transition. And Antonio Conte, the time's ticking. He might as well just leave, or you guys might have just get rid of him, because this whole project is not going to work. And you're going to need another person to come in the near future, because he's not going to renew his contract. And at that point, you're going to try to see a succession plan in the future. Right now, I don't see any plans for the future with Tottenham with Antonio Conte. And that's just a harsh reality.
Yeah, again, everything you said is spot on, so I can't even critique it or argue with it. The only thing I'd say is that regardless of who the manager is, if it's the same guys, they're not going to get any more of a tune out of them. Eric Dyer, as Nobbin said, and as everyone else is saying, crap, should never be starting games for us. Langley started okay, but in the end, we discovered that he's crap as well. Ben Davis, I've hated the guy forever. He's so crap, can't pass the ball. Like, what is he actually good at? He's a steady Eddie at best. On his best day, you have a 6 or 7 out of 10, but he's crap. Davinson Sanchez is awful. One good season coming from the Eredivisie. That league, I don't know, man. I'm just not sure about it. it's hit and miss. Like it's just crazy. He's not good anymore. And Tanganga, who was a good player, good youth player coming through our academy, who I liked the look of. But let's be real, he's not good enough. 3 or 4 seasons in, we still don't know his best position. Whenever he does get a game, he doesn't show that he should be starting. And yeah, we just leak. Every time Leicester went forward on Saturday, they looked like scoring. And 4-1 flattered us. That's crazy to say. Leicester were really good. Give them credit. They deserve to win that game. And I just wanted the game to be over. Like Terry, one of them ones where after 45, 50 minutes, that the game's done. You're just like, please, just fast forward to 90 minutes. Whatever the score is, let's reset and go again. We were just
You want the season to be over now?
No. I still believe, you lot might call me crazy. I still think we'll make top 4, but it's not going to be pretty. It's going to be a slugfest.
Based on what?
What do you think you're finishing above Man United?
I don't know, to be honest, because even when you lot aren't, because we'll get into United, but I don't think you lot were that good on our Sunday against Leeds, but you just had moments where the quality shone, like Luke Shaw's cross, because I missed most of the game, so I turned on the 60th minute, and from like 60 through to like 80, whatever, Leeds were all over you. But then Luke Shaw, an amazing cross, Rashford, bang, 1-0, and then the game was done. Like, you lot just controlled it after that.
But how many things? One second.
That, so go on again. Go on.
How many things need to go your way for you guys to get top 4? I just don't physically see it. Like,
I just think Newcastle dropped off, to be honest.
Yeah,
Newcastle or Manchester United to drop off.
We ain't dropping off. Don't worry about us.
We ain't dropping off. And your best player this season, who's been Bentancur, in my opinion, is out for 6 months.
Kane's been our best player. Let's not. Bentancur has been our best midfielder by a country mile. But if you're talking about best players, Kane, like, comfortably. Kane's been winning us how many games? Like, you can't say that Bentancur.
Okay. If you want to argue that point, it's fine. But the point still stands. Without Bentancur, you've massively taken a hit to your squad, and you still believe you're going to get top 4 based on what merit?
Based on the fact that if we start clicking, which I know we can, we still score a lot of goals. Defensively, we are shambles. And I just don't believe Newcastle can sustain it. And they just draw too many games. Newcastle have drawn 11 games already.
Newcastle have a defense. You don't.
Yeah, but you got to win games, Agal. We've won more games than them, even as bad.
Defense.
But we've won more games than Newcastle.
They've drawn 5 out of their last 6. That's why I think they'll drop off.
I just think, you're asking me, I have answered it, Agal.
Patrick, the difference with Man United and Spurs, for example, you speak about Luke Shaw, that brilliant cross, etc. At the start of the season, Luke Shaw was dropped from the team. Maguire was dropped from the team. Now, Malacia just came in, but Ten Hag gave certain players kicks up the backside. We've seen what happened with Sanchez. Kicks up the backside. The player that you're bringing in, a Garnacho, isn't as proven on the world stage as a Jadon Sancho. But if someone's not doing their job, you have to. They have to be punished for not doing their job. We'll probably get onto that in a different element later. But that's be punished for not doing their job, or they're going to continue making the same mistakes because they know there's no punishment for that. And Conte has allowed a lot of players to just get away with poor performances week in, week out. We talk about Pedro Porro coming in now, and Emerson, he had a great game against Man City, but Jess Spence didn't get a game all year purely because Conte didn't buy him. But the right backs that were playing there were not performing. So even if you brought in Jed Spence, he couldn't have played worse than they were. But if you don't do that, you don't then get a better performance out of Emerson and Doherty because they know next week I'm going to be playing again. And I think that's one of the biggest problems.
I thought that was what Danjuma was for. I thought you brought in like Richarlison would stay as the Harry Kane backup because he played so many minutes. You hadn't had a chance to rest him all year. I thought that was what Danjuma was for. So come in, take the load off of Heung-min Son, step in for these games.
Every manager though ruins Harry Kane. They all overplay him. Every manager, Poch overplayed him, Jose overplayed him, Nuno didn't really get the chance to. Conte's overplaying him. One of the reasons that Pep has outlasted, Liverpool, if we ignore the potential allegations here, that as being one of the reasons, is because Pep will regularly rotate. He'll regularly drop people. One moment Gundogan's a star midfielder, the next minute he's riding the bench. The defense even more so. Aguero didn't play every single minute of every single game. Fergie was a master of rotation. There's a reason I think why you look at Mo Salah and he's burning out a little bit. It's like every game he has to play. Harry Kane gets ruined. In terms of making top 4, though, since the World Cup, Spurs, if